Hey guys, how we doing and how we feeling today? I'm your host Emilio Fernandez and welcome back to the Pop and Bob podcast. Now, on this episode, we're going to talk about and review Sabrina Carpenter's 7th studio album, Man's Best Friend. Now, in case you don't know who Sabrina is, in case you've been living under a rock these past few years, Sabrina is best known for smash hits like Espresso and Please Please Please. Now, this album is mainly a pop album, and prior to the album release, we had the lead single Man Child, and the second single Tears that song was released as a single with the album release. Now, this album is 12 tracks long and it's 38 minutes long, so 12 tracks, at least for me, should be like the standard, like between 12 and 15 tracks for me is like this standard for like a good album length. And 38 minutes, it's on the shorter side of the listening session, I would say. Now, we start with the first track, Man Child. This is a lead single, as I already said. This is a country-oriented track, a sound that Sabrina has explored on albums like Emails I Can't Send and Short and Sweet, her previous two albums. And I want to add that these albums, we actually reviewed them on this podcast. So be sure to check those out after listening or after watching this episode. Not a very strong opening track, I have to say. However, the lyrics are its strongest elements. And while we're on this topic, or subtopic, after I listened to this album in its entirety for the first time, I found that this track was one of my least favorites on the album. It's not a bad song by any means, but I have to admit that the first time I heard it, I was a little taken aback by what I heard, because I wasn't expecting that sound at all. But now that I think about it, the music video does correlate with this country sound, but I don't know why I didn't expect that sound, but I was expecting something else entirely. And anyways, this song, although it debuted at number 1 and became Sabrina's second chart topper after Please Please Please, it wasn't able to quite replicate the phenomenon that was Espresso, which peaked at number 3, but was a much more stable hit. And in case you weren't around for the Short and Sweet era, last year, 2024, Espresso was everywhere. It was one of the top songs of last year. And even though, as I said, it peaked at number 3, it really feels like it was a number 1 hit, because it charted for more than a year on the Hot 100, and it was on the top 25 for almost all of its run. So, huge hit. Sabrina's signature hit by now. It's her biggest hit. And in this song, Sabrina, this is an ex, as he calls him, a man-child, among other things. This is most likely about her most recent ex, actor Barry Keoghan, I don't know how you say his last name. But in case you don't know who he is, he appeared in 2 noteworthy movies, Saltburn and the MCU's Marvel's Eternals. And okay, moving on to track number 2, Tears, the first of my highlights on the album. This is the second single, as I already said. The piano played during the intro makes the song feel grander. One of the strongest tracks on the album. The production here is arguably the strongest there is on the album. A highly radio-friendly song, so it made a lot of sense to be pushed as a single, and the ideal one to push with the album release. And in this song, Sabrina gets real about how aroused she gets by her lovers, so pretty self-explanatory. Not gonna get into it, just like a really, really explicit song. Let's call it that. Now, track number 3, My Man on Willpower. The production sounds a bit wonky at the beginning, but it becomes much more pleasing right after. In this song, Sabrina talks about how her lover went from being obsessed with her to becoming indifferent towards her, seemingly overnight. She finds herself desperately seeking to reclaim his attention to no avail. She's confused as to what's going on with him and where he's at in the relationship. So, pretty interesting title for a song, My Man on Willpower. Yeah, I mean, there it can happen that, as is the case with the song, that your partner goes from 0 to 100, the other way around, from 100 to 0, like they're head over heels for you, and then suddenly they're like, yeah, like it seems like they don't care about you anymore, but for some reason they're still there. They just maybe don't know how to like call it quits. So they're there, but it's like they're not even there. Like they're not in it anymore. Their heart's not in it anymore. So you're like confused as to what's going on, where that person is mentally in the relationship. So yeah. Now, track number 4, Sugar Talking, another one of my standouts. One of the strongest tracks on the album. Sabrina's vocal performance is spectacular, especially towards the end. The instrumentation here is stellar. And in this song, Sabrina is fed up with her lover's BS, refusing to fall for his mind games as she has before. She pleads with him to stop wasting his money, trying to win her over as it only makes her cry. She finds herself giving him a last chance time and time again, but this time she means business. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who like to sugar talk, like they know just what to tell you to like win you over, manipulate you, get you to do whatever they want. So you gotta be careful with these people. And if you find yourself in this situation, just like you have to stand your ground and don't give them a lot of chances. Like really be more firm in what you want and know when to say no and when to like tell them this is over, this is not healthy, let's just go our separate ways. Now, track number 5, We Almost Broke Up Again Last Night. The beginning makes the listener think that they're in for a slower track, but each chorus builds towards a more lively moment. Sabrina outdoes herself vocally on this track, and in this song, Sabrina talks about being in an on and off relationship. So there are a lot of relationships that are on and off. It can be that they're toxic or they're very indecisive. There are a lot of reasons for that. So a couple making up, breaking up, and going in that back and forth cycle can be pretty common. Now, track number 6, Nobody's Son. The instrumentation, in this case the violins, really elevates the track. And in this song, Sabrina finds herself being the third wheel for all her friends that are in love, crying after the guy she was with asked for them to take a break so he could grow emotionally. So, pretty interesting title for a song, Nobody's Son. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who may be in this situation, like they were with someone and that person told them to take a break so they can work on their stuff, on their problems, whatnot, which is fair, I guess, but that leaves you with like feeling sad about it, obviously, being a third wheel for all your friends that are in relationships still. So it sucks for you if you're in that situation. Now, track number 7, Never Getting Laid. The production sounds a bit dreamy during the beginning of the track, and in this song, Sabrina finds herself wishing the worst to an ex that did her dirty. Now, pretty self-explanatory. Like, you wish the worst to an ex because of how they treated you, especially towards the end. And even though obviously it's not healthy to wish the worst to anyone really, in the heat of the moment, it may be normal for you to do so because you're like letting off steam. So that's like kind of therapeutic for you in a way. Now, track number 8, When Did You Get Hot? Another one of my standouts. One of the strongest tracks on the album. Sabrina has a vocal highlight on the track. Truly a high note to remember among her discography, and Sabrina is well known for her impressive vocal range. And this track has the potential to be pushed as a single. Its sultry sound lends itself quite nicely to a pretty memorable visual. Kind of reminiscent, just occurred to me right now, kind of reminiscent of Bed Cam from Short and Sweet, the previous album, and Bet You Wanna, a deep cut from 2 albums ago, Emails I Can't Send. And in this song, Sabrina is amazed at how a guy in her life went from being unattractive to hot in her eyes. Nothing I can add to that, pretty self-explanatory, so we're gonna move on to track number 9, Go Go Juice, another one of my standouts. Another country sounding track, but the execution here is substantially better than on Manchild. Sabrina gets fun and playful on this track, which is a pretty solid formula she has cracked by now. The instrumentation, in this case the acoustic guitar, here is pretty delightful. And in this song, Sabrina contemplates on drunk dialing one of her exes, whether it be Barry Keoghan, Shawn Mendes, Joshua Bassett, and Dylan O'Brien. So I love when artists get playful and fun in their tracks, and in this case, Sabrina is like having a drink or two. And yeah, like as I said, she's like, what if I like call up one of my exes? And I like how she used, like, for example, for Barry, she used Larry. For Shawn, I think it was John. For Joshua, it was Gosh for Josh. And Dylan, it was Villain. That was the best one, undoubtedly. And yeah, so pretty fun song. Now, track number 10, Don't Worry, I'll Make You Worry, the last of my standouts on the album. Sabrina slows things down on this beautiful ballad, and in this song, Sabrina tells her partner that dating her is quite the emotional roller coaster. She warns him, as she likes to sporadically give him the silent treatment and leaving him clueless as to where he stands with her. So, this sounds unhealthy, but I mean, it's something that you at least warn the other person of how you are in relationships, rather than just like leaving them completely in the dark and just hitting them with this like behavior and just messing with their head. So yeah, I mean, at least she warned him. Now, track number 11, House Tour. One of Sabrina's most raunchy songs yet, and the wordplay here is quite clever. And Sabrina, ever since Emails I Can't Send, but especially since Short and Sweet, she's been known for her pretty clever wordplay. And the house sound effects are a nice touch, like opening and closing the door and stuff like that. It really embodies the track's concept. And in this song, Sabrina is all about getting intimate with presumably a new guy in her life, using a house as a way of illustrating the whole experience. So, pretty, well, I don't know if self-explanatory is the way to go here to make my point, but once you listen to the song, you're gonna get it. Like, it's pretty on the nose. And that brings us to the final track on this album, track number 12, Goodbye. Pretty cleverly named, and this is a solid closing track because the title is fitting and the subject matter here was the ideal way of wrapping up the album. Sabrina dabbles in other languages like Spanish, Italian, and French, as she says goodbye in each of them. And in this song, Sabrina tells a guy straight up that when she says goodbye, when she bids farewell to him, or to any guy, it generally means that he's losing her for good. So, kind of a simple and self-explanatory song to end us off, but a pretty good song, as I said. So that was the album. Overall, this is kind of a step down from Sabrina's previous album, Short and Sweet, I have to say, but a pretty solid pop album regardless, and I can say from experience that this album is a grower, meaning maybe you don't get it at first. Like, at first, maybe you're gonna have naturally your favorites, but like the whole album is not gonna move you like that. But listen to it a few more times, and I think by the second listen or third at the latest, you're gonna get it. Trust me on that one. The production is mostly consistent, and Sabrina's vocal performance is stunning all throughout. She didn't disappoint, and she hasn't disappointed vocally ever really on her albums. Now, when comparing this album to the rest of Sabrina's discography, do I consider this to be her best album yet? No. I consider her previous 6th studio album, Short and Sweet, to be her best album yet. I mean, we had a perfect single run. We had Espresso, Please, 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 and Taste back to back. And then we had also, well, some say that Berkem was a 4th single, but we had no music video, but they said that it was played on radio. So it was technically a single, but we had no music video for it. And we also had some other songs that really could have been singles, like Good Graces, and, you know, like, there are a lot of bops on there. Now, what score do I give this album? I give it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so that was our review for Man's Best Friend by Sabrina Carpenter. Before I go, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell on YouTube. Review us on your podcast streaming platform of choice. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and I'm forgetting one. Can't remember it right now. Oh, yeah, Google Podcast. That was the last one. And leave your comments on Spotify. I don't know if you can comment on the other platforms aside from YouTube, but at least on Spotify you can. So make sure to comment on there. We want to know what you think about the episodes. Give us your feedback so we can improve. And if you want more content from us, make sure to follow Pop and Bop on all social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And it's Pop and Bop on all of them. Okay, so this has been Pop and Bop. I'm Emilio Fernandez, your host once again. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. See you.